Voices here sounds very clear. Savings are grand, Bahama land. Family is there, bringing good cheer. Sun, sea, and sand, they'll understand. New Providence, San Salvador, Grand Bahama, Equatorial. Where voices hit families just for Christmas. Where voices hit families just for Christmas. Call Emily and Monkey, call Abaco and Monkey, call Nanawa and Cobra Town and Fresh Creek. That island too. Call your grandma and your grandpa. They'd love to hear from you this year. Where voices hit families just for Christmas. Where voices hit families just for Christmas.
Sign up for Red Voice Bahamaland for as low as $14.99 a month with unlimited local and nationwide calling. You'll be entered to win your mortgage and utilities for a full year. Red Voice Bahamaland.
Red voices here, sounds very clear. Say things are grand, Bahamaland.
A man killed while changing a car tire.
2 males accosted him.
Meantime, 2 other men shot in earlier incidents die in hospital. The government is auditing the country's educational system.
We're at the analysis stage where we're inputting the data.
We'll tell you what's being done to rid the Family Islands of shanty towns. Plus, the American Basketball League looking for Bahamian athletes.
They are on the island playing ball, but not necessarily getting the recognition.
We've got those stories and more for you tonight. I'm Nakia DeVoe, and this is NB12 Weekend. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Here's what's coming out of the NB12 newsroom this weekend. The murder count jumped from 102 to 105 in just a matter of hours after 3 men fighting for their lives in hospital succumbed to their injuries. 2 of the men were shot in separate incidents earlier this year. The 3rd man was gunned down while changing his tire on Carmichael Road just last night.
Sometime around 7:20 p.m., police received reports of gunshots being discharged in the Carmichael Road area just west of the Samilo Butler Highway.
When officers arrived at the scene, they met a crowd of people gathered outside of the Meat Max grocery store. Head of the Central Detective Unit, Superintendent Paul Roll, said police found a man slumped over near his Honda Accord with multiple gunshot wounds.
This gentleman, he was driving along with his female companion in the vehicle and encountered a flat tire. He had stopped on the side of the road here just west of Milo Butler Highway and was changing the tire on his vehicle.
That's reportedly when 2 men ambushed him. One of the culprits pulled out a gun and fired several shots at the victim, hitting him several times. The man was rushed to the Princess Margaret Hospital in an ambulance, where he died moments later.
The assailants, after shooting the victim, ran west on Carmichael Road and disappeared into the bushes nearby, here behind me.
Well, police have arrested one of those suspects. Officers from the Firearms Tracing Unit arrested the 22-year-old man at his Nassau Village home around 5:30 this morning. At last report, the other suspect was still at large. Police are asking anyone with information to come forward and assist them with finding him. This afternoon, a 32-year-old man who was shot in the head on Ida Street around 11 p.m. Thursday night succumbed to his injuries in hospital. Police found James Strawn in his backyard suffering from multiple gunshot wounds on Thursday. And a 22-year-old man who has been on life support at the Princess Margaret Hospital for 5 months fighting for his life also lost that battle this afternoon. Lanero Arlene was shot while walking on Gambia Village back on July 21st. The incidents pushed the country's murder count for 2013 up to 104, according to Roll, though the Nassau Guardian's records put the murder count at 105 after these latest deaths. Well, police are still making efforts to take illegal firearms off of the streets to decrease the amount of gun violence in the country. They're requesting the public's assistance in finding a man they believe possesses an unlicensed firearm. Police want to question 28-year-old Toriano Smith of Pinecrest, South Beach. He's there on your screen. They're asking members of the public to come forward with any information on Smith's whereabouts or for him to turn himself in to the Firearms Tracing and Investigations Unit. Toriano Smith is 5 feet 9 inches tall, has a dark brown complexion, and is of slim build. According to the Royal Bahamas Police Force's website, police have taken 392 firearms off of the streets so far this year. In the past few weeks, a spate of murders and shootings has taken the nation's murder count into the triple digits. Now advocates say government ought to revisit its gun amnesty program in an effort to get firearms off the streets and stem the violence. Here's Christina McNeil with that story.
Anti-violence advocates pushing for the return of government's gun amnesty as the murder rate and number of shootings in the capital continue to rise.
Believe it, if something is not done, I'm not a prophet of doom, but it's going to get worse. Because we have just not come to this point. We just didn't show up here. This came after a period of time where people have a tendency not to put value on life. We might say that we're not involved in these stuff, but when you neglect your children and run behind material things and don't be there for them, you're indirectly telling them that monies and material things is more valuable than their lives. And so they in return say, if my life ain't valuable, no one don't love me, no one don't look out for me, no one is here for me, then why should I look out for someone else? My life doesn't value nothing, so there's another person's life no value nothing either.
Either we gonna deal with these criminals or we can play with them. And while they be playing with them, the murder rate increasing. Come on, man. Innocent people could be getting killed.
Executive Director of Teen Challenge and founder of Temperament Development, Pastor Eric Fox, says while he commends the Commissioner of Police and Ministry of National Security for what they have done so far in the fight against crime, they ought to take another look at the gun amnesty program. Founder of Families of All Murder Victims, Candy Gibson, agrees, saying it may be the only way to get illegal firearms off the streets. Back in 2011, a 30-day gun amnesty program under the Ingram administration led to the seizure of more than 18 firearms and in excess of 3,300 live rounds of ammunition. However, Fox notes that recently it has been more difficult to get young men coming forward to hand over their guns.
From what I got, a lot of these young men really do not want to be involved in the things there, but they want to be out. They are mostly products of their environment. That's all they know. But if it's the door, they'll come out willing to surrender. But they seem to be a little more reluctant now, so we have to go back and start all over again and soften them up. We're working with a number of young men, and they were willing, but because of an incident that occurred with a particular young man where he was charged with withholding information, the young men them seemed to be reluctant. There were a lot who were willing to open up, and now I notice even in the groups, it's not something they want to talk about.
Several pastors assisted government with the previous gun amnesty, helping to turn guns in for people who were too afraid to do it themselves. The sentence for unlawful possession of a firearm or ammunition is a minimum of 4 years. But advocates note that you cannot get something for nothing. They say people who turn guns in should receive amnesty or even a reward for doing the right thing.
I believe that if you can get something in return, you can give them something, like you say, grocery vouchers, even a couple of dollars, If I run into a young man and I know he has a firearm, if I got to buy it from him, for me, I'll give up my own life, because I looking at this, I save this life, and then I save another person's life, and most of these young men get kids, and I save, so I'm not just looking at one particular person, I'm looking at the reaching effect of this whole thing, man. This is serious, for the young men to have guns and stuff that chip them and they think completely different, man.
You have to encourage people, because no one giving you nothing for nothing. No one giving nothing for nothing. I think there needs to be a reward for guns turning. I also think too that if a person chooses to turn the gun, they should be held accountable for where they get the gun from. Bring the gun in. Let the police do the ballistic and see where that gun killed 4 people. That's where ballistic reports come in. That have nothing to do with it. If someone give me a gun to turn in, I shouldn't have to be held accountable for a gun that was given to me. You all want to go off the street? Then I bring the gun to you all off the street. But don't hold me accountable, because I ain't accountable for nobody's actions.
Back in September, National Security Minister Dr. Bernard Nottage said the police must and will flush out the criminals, along with their illegal firearms and drugs, which seem to be fueling crime. Reporting for NB12, I'm Christina McNeil.
In other news, the government is auditing the country's educational system to determine how many students have learning disorders and special needs. But Minister of Education Jerome Fitzgerald estimated that 25% of them are in this category. The audit will also determine how many teachers are equipped to instruct students with special needs. Paige McCartney reports.
Fitzgerald said addressing the issues of special needs students is a top priority of this government's policy agenda, and this manual is the first of many initiatives government will roll out on the issue. Fitzgerald held a press conference at the Ministry of Education yesterday to release a manual called the National Standards for Inclusive Education. The document is meant to be a resource for teachers and relevant agencies to help them ensure that special needs students have their needs met in the educational system. Fitzgerald said the document is not a panacea to address years of deficiencies in the area of special education. However, it is a part of a multifaceted approach to make a difference in the lives of thousands of students denied their right to a quality education.
There are a lot of cases where children are frustrated, the teachers are frustrated, really because at the end of the day, the diagnosis is not correct. And then secondly, of course, the parents play a big role because the parents have to be in a position and have to understand and accept that just because a child has a challenge, it doesn't mean that intervention strategies cannot address it. But the key fact, of course, is being able to be honest, being able to accept, and for us in the ministry being in a position where we have the capacity to intervene and give those parents a confidence.
Assistant Director in the Ministry of Education in charge of special education, Ollie Mae Knowles, says the focus of the ministry at this time is compiling as much information on how many students have special needs in the education system.
Analysis stage where we're inputting the data in terms of getting an initial assessment of the extent or prevalence of disabilities. And remember, special needs is an umbrella term. So that could be ranging from the mentally retarded on one extreme to the gifted and talented on the other extreme. And so coming out this initial audit that we are doing, though, would generate through the Our Lady Center Diagnostic Center the ability for us to go with a more focused perspective to say, going forward in the future, we could say there are 5,000 children in the system with learning disabilities. There are 225 who are blind, because all of those make up the special needs. So at the moment, we just are the genesis stages of trying to be specific in our count.
According to the Ministry of Education, there are just more than 161 teachers in the system that have training in special needs education. Starting early next year, teachers will take part in professional workshops conducted at Our Lady's Diagnostic Center by the ministry's Special Services and Education units. According to Fitzgerald, the Professional Development Institute at the Mabel Walker Primary School will also play an integral role in the ongoing training of public and private school teachers in inclusive education.
Understanding the significance of special ed, and also to ensure that our teachers have the capacity to be able to diagnose, and also the ability to have minor intervention skills, that we have spoken extensively with the College of the Bahamas to ensure that moving forward, the component of special education, which makes up a part of their curriculum, is to be enhanced and expanded because it is a skill that we feel when we look around at various jurisdictions which have really propelled themselves ahead of other jurisdictions in the area of special education. They have ensured that their teachers and the training of their teachers at special education is a big component.
In September, Prime Minister Perry Christie said the government is confronted with the problem of how to design public policies to benefit people with special needs and learning disabilities that can be implemented across the country. At the time, he urged researchers at the College of the Bahamas to use its resources to get data on the number of residents with disabilities so it can be used to influence public policy. For NB12, I'm Paige McCartney.